Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in this beautiful world you happen to be. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host for the Leaders of the Heart podcast. And today I have a very special treat, my good friend, Ralph. Ralph is an amazing person, a beautiful human being, and is absolutely beyond blessed with amazing qualities. He's the healer man. His motto is heal yourself and heal the world, and has been healing um, us and the group that we are part of for the past few weeks, and he's going to share with us his story and all that. Ralph, good morning. Good to have you among us, brother.
Thank you, Payman. So good to see you, man. Good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you because you're a very busy person and you're doing absolutely amazing things. So first of all, tell us a little bit about you. Who's Ralph? Tell us your story.
Where do I start, man? So I guess the best place to start is when it got really weird. When it got really weird, and a few years ago, back in 2014, my wife and I and our little boy were sleeping outside in a tent, and it was about 35 degrees, so like 2 or 3 degrees
Wow.
centigrade, and raining and windy, and we were outside our house, and we couldn't sleep in it because it was too toxic, and we had my life had kind of fallen apart, and I had to really figure stuff out. And my wife told me, "You've got to get happy, man. You got to get happy." It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, what happened? But basically, I started off as a physical therapist in 1985, and went from Texas and went to San Diego because I thought everybody wanted to live in Southern California. And after a few years, I built up with a girlfriend, a past girlfriend. We built up I built up a physical therapy practice, and then it became a practice where people saw me for chronic conditions, autoimmune conditions, all sorts of chronic medical conditions. We had a way to help with the healing, and life was going really well. I thought that was how it was going to go. And I met Jen, my wife, in 2007, and after that, some stuff started happening. I got really, really sick, and I got severe bone pain and really weird depression. And I'd already solved what had been a lifelong anxiety problem years before, but I had a terrible depression and a really bad bone pain, and I couldn't run. I've been a runner since I've been a kid, long distance runner. And it took me
Wow.
2 years to figure out how to heal myself from that. It was really quite interesting. But because of all that, we ended up hitting the road and selling everything, and getting a truck and a tent, and we found our way up here to the Pacific Northwest, just north of Seattle, just south of Vancouver, Canada. And through the process of trying to get away from the world, I just wanted to get away from the world because I'd been kind of attacked, it seemed like, on many levels. We realized that we wanted to get back in the world. And so we moved out. Had been out by a mountain, and Mount Baker here, and we moved back into town, Bellingham, Washington, and started our online healing practice. And so now what I do is help people with their healing. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is helping entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs, I feel, are the people that are going to save the planet, save the world. So many people have solved something, and now they want to do that in the world. And one of the things that's in the way is fear and anxiety and this impostor syndrome. And so what I do now is help people clear that so they can see immediate changes in their world. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. And we do it online, and we have a great group, like you said, in our coaching group. So yeah, that's the nutshell.
Wow. Lots of good things to comment
And I
on.
got my
And
health back. I got over the bone pain. I got back to running. I can run in the forest here. It's a dream come true.
And that is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, nothing matters. Even if you have $1 trillion, if you don't have your health, doesn't matter. And I keep saying the two most valuable assets we have, first of all, is our health and our time.
Yeah.
Everything else comes after that, because once you don't have your health, and once you don't have your time, nothing else matters.
It's so
Yeah.
true, and it's so easy to put health on the back burner. Like I'll work on that later. But yeah, it's so
Exactly.
true.
Exactly. I've been there so many times. Like, for example, just eating crap food, sleeping late, and waking up early and being a zombie just for the sake of what? For the sake of chasing some dollars? That's useless. A time comes that you wake up, you say, enough of that. Let me get my priorities straight, focus on what really matters, and that's my health. That's the most important, because, as I said, you can be the most wealthy person in the world if you don't have your health. I mean, what is all this money good for? You're not going to be able to take it with you. when you move on
Yeah.
to the next stage, you know?
And it can get really weird, and hopefully it doesn't get too weird for people like it did for me for a while, where you wonder if you're going to be on the planet, you know. It's like,
Oh yeah.
the crazy stuff, the asthmas and the really weird stuff. It can be a reset button for people. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Another thing you mentioned that I totally agree on is said that it's we entrepreneurs are the ones changing the world. It's true. A lot of people turn to governments and all that to improve their lives. Yes, governments do play a role, but ultimately it's us entrepreneurs that we have, that make things happen. It's entrepreneurs that create the jobs, that stimulate the economy and all that, and it's we are the us entrepreneurs. We are the most powerful force in any country, any economy, because without entrepreneurs there would be no economy basically.
Yeah, and I've got a
Every
great story about that. If you want a real short one, that
mhm.
was like
Yes, please.
about a year ago. My little boy was having a problem in his school. He was second grade, and the teacher was like, he's got some kind of glitch about running. I mean, not running, about he's a great runner, about reading, and they couldn't figure it out. So we went to all these tests in the public school system. We were in a private school, and they said go to these public school things, and the psychologist is going to check, and they're going to check all these things. And then they did a big meeting for us, and they said, here's the problem. And they started to talk about coming in and doing 4 hours a day with them and all this stuff. And I said, well, how long does it take to fix this up? And they said, oh no, this is going to be lifetime. He's going to have this in college. And I was
What?
like, no, man. And so I came home and I told Jen, somebody has fixed this. And within a day, she found a guy from England that had this problem. He was an engineer and he had it when he was a kid, and he got through it. And then his two boys had the problem and he figured out how to fix it. And then he made an online course that was all
Wow.
fun and all sorts of little games. And within a few months, Vin loved it. Every night we did it, it was gone. And
That's
so the
amazing.
entrepreneur had figured out how to fix it, and then we found him, and then he showed us how to do it. So it's like, you know.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. This entire, it's funny that are we seeing a trend of having a course for pretty much everything you can think of. There's a course for it.
I know.
There's a course for it, and sometimes you see courses for things that absolutely, I mean, that makes you say, "Is this for real? Is this guy
Yeah,
joking?" Or
yeah. Is it a joke? Yeah, yeah.
I even saw a course on for someone offering how to breathe properly. I mean, at first I was laughing, but then I
Wow.
said, "Well, that's actually pretty important because a lot of breathing is a foundation, especially when it comes to meditation, all that. It's the most important thing." And
Yeah,
I was like, "Wow, that's such a good thing to do. Something so simple that we all take for granted, but
yeah.
still, you need to master to do it properly." You know?
Yeah, and there's a bit about breathing that I can tell you a little about that's pretty interesting that I don't think most people realize. They kind of know it, but they don't realize it. If I can share that bit
Absolutely. Go
about,
ahead.
it's like the idea of like healing. So, because with healing, with anything, there's something the body's doing for a really good reason why it's having a problem. But
Mhm.
one thing that the lungs do is they're a vacuum, and by that it
Yeah.
means if you puncture your lung, it collapses. It
Absolutely.
collapses. It doesn't pop out, it collapses. But if you puncture somebody's gut, it all pops out. Everything would pop out. So the lungs are a negative pressure, it's a vacuum. And the
Hmm.
guts down in the belly is a positive pressure, and it's separated by a diaphragm that goes up and down and lets blood go back and forth. So it's really complicated, very neat system. But one of the cool things about the vacuum is stuff is attracted to a vacuum. So if the lungs are able to breathe really big, then that vacuum is optimized. And what happens is the liver and the stomach and all the intestines, if you took them out of the body and weighed them, they weigh a certain amount. But in the body, they weigh much less. And the reason is they're attracted to the vacuum, to the lungs. So if you really have your lungs working well, your ribs are working well and your lungs are expanding, you've got this vacuum optimized, it's strong, and it lifts your organs. And so your organs get to have better blood flow and better health and move better, and you're lighter and younger. So it's kind of interesting how the body is designed in a way that's really smart like that.
Oh,
So breathing, yeah,
absolutely.
breathing is big.
Yeah. The body is the most advanced, the most perfect piece of machine in the universe. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, the more you think about it, like just for us to do any simple movement, just for me, just to look at you or whatever, just to move my lips or whatever, you have no idea how many muscles are and motion, how much, movement and all that are going on that we don't even know. When you
Yeah.
watch those videos about how the human body works, it's absolutely mind blowing. Mind blowing. Yeah. So tell me, you mentioned a lot of great things. What is the one thing that really fuels you? What is your why? What is making you in the morning wake up, do the things you're doing, and yeah, tell us about your why.
Yeah, I think there's two parts I feel about my why. One is, I guess, about me. Um, Years ago, one of my big thing, first three things, I guess, years ago, it was to get rid of anxiety and this weird sweaty hand problem I had, and that
Mm-hmm.
I cleared after 37 years of having it. But so then after that, it was I had built a successful business, and my why was like, how come I don't have a girlfriend? Like, I've wanted a wife and a family, and I had a whole dream, and then Jen showed up, and now we have two boys. So
Wow.
they're my why, like to take care of them the way I want to take care of them. Now, the bigger why that's come up with me and Jen is there's it's to help the kids. It's to help the kids
Mm.
and people. And there's a lot of what we see in the world is man-made problems, man-made diseases, like the stuff like the asthmas and the cancers and the heart disease and all the autoimmune conditions. Those are man-made in their environmental. And there's a movement. I guess I could just talk about it. Called the medical freedom movement, and it's basically the idea that you have control over your own body. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many there's so much push to control people's bodies with vaccines and say that everybody has to do this. And now it's like getting really strong. Everybody has to do all these things to protect themselves from some thing in the air. And the thing is, there's a way to get yourself healthier so you don't have to protect yourself from every little thing in the universe. And one of the things that the big thing that Jen and I our big why is this medical freedom, that people can truly heal, and they don't have to and to have the freedom to decide what's right for your own health. And it
Mm-hmm.
goes into the whole thing of like medical interventions, like having the right and the ability to the freedom to say, not for me, not for my body, not for my kids. We're going to do it this way: clean water, clean
Absolutely.
food, clean air, happy life, and trust God. And that's our big why, because there's a big push to control people with a certain
Totally.
system. And there's other systems. There's the God made us really perfect system. let's do that. So that's I can go deeper into that, but yeah, that's our
Wow.
big why. And there's some good people doing good stuff in that world to bring it to light. And so to help those people bring that message out to the world is the thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's all, we need to get back to, we tend to overcomplicate things, and what we need to do really is get back to basics, get back to nature, get back in touch with nature. I was having a talk with a friend of mine just recently, and we're talking about, because I'm a nomad. I travel all the time. I love experiencing the world. And he was talking to me. He was asking me, "So, what's your health insurance?" I said, "Well, my health insurance is 500 push-ups a day, 1 to 2 hours of biking every morning. That's my health insurance."
Yes,
And
health assurance, health assurance.
exactly. I'd much rather do that than pay. Sure, I believe in insurance. That's needed when you really need it. But
Yeah.
80 to 90% of all the ailments we have, we can really self take care of them by eating properly and doing properly regular exercises. Not only that, but also controlling the type of thoughts we have, because a lot of time we're surrounded by toxic news and toxic things around us, and that definitely affects our mood and our chemistry in the body and all that. So we just have to, just like we need to feed our body with food, we need also to feed our mind with positive uh, things. I love reading. My goal, I've been trying to read one book a week. Now I'm
That's
reading
awesome.
about one book every 10 days. Even on my desk right now, I wish I could show you, I have at least 10 books.
I
So
hear you,
yeah,
man.
So yeah, so we have a lot of control that we can, a lot of things that we can take control of, and it all starts with just being, getting more in touch with nature, getting back to basics. Not only in that, but also getting back to especially in this day and age, we're so connected. You know, I'm sure you've seen these pictures of people going, at a big dinner table and everybody is glued to their phone. Instead of talking
Oh
to each
yeah,
other,
yeah,
instead of talk. Come on, guys, stop that. Communication is happens. Sure, it's nice to be connected with people around the world, around the country, but pay attention to people around you, especially
yeah.
with your family, your friends. I think one thing that I really want to do at this stage is just to live maybe in an island by myself, away from so-called, all this noise, all these things, and just live in peace with nature, you know.
I was there back in 2013 when we left San Diego, and and it was interesting. I had to shift a lot of stuff because
Mm,
I remember telling my friends in San Diego before we left, I said, I got to just get away from people.
right.
And we went out by this mountain and it was cool, but the universe, God definitely said, no, get back in there, man, and do some good. So, yeah, there's, but I can relate to that. I went through a period of that for sure.
Yeah, so tell us about what you do. What's your business? You're the healer person, so tell us about what is your program. Just tell us about your business and what you do.
My business is helping people with their healing. And ultimately, I feel healing comes from God. And the premise of it, the idea is that whenever we see anybody with a problem, whether it's anxiety or fear or some medical condition or some kind of addiction, like lots of cigarettes or different issues, everybody's doing the best they can do. And what we see is they're protecting themselves from something. And they're doing a really good job of it, even if they're in a wheelchair, even if they're smoking cigarettes, even if they're loaded with lots of fear, even if they're not moving forward in their business, they're doing the best they can do. They're protecting something. And they could be protecting a physical thing. Like for me, when the thing that got my bone pain was fluoride. I started drinking, they started putting fluoride in the water, and I didn't realize I was, a lot of people are sensitive to it, but it was causing them the depression and the bone pain. So it was protecting me from that. Before that, years before I couldn't run. After many years of being able to run, I couldn't run more than 5 minutes. And I tried everything as a therapist to fix it. I had my therapist working on me, all these different people. And my calf kept spasming 5 minutes of running. And I went to one therapist and she put one hand on my foot and said, you got a problem with your heart, because she could feel stuff. And that led
Wow.
to 10 years and 110 classes in this medical intuitive model. But basically, my body was protecting my heart. So it was spasming muscles, smart bodies, spasm muscles, don't let them run because these arteries have some problems. Let's fix up the arteries. It could be protecting a spiritual pain. Like I had a client, without divulging a lot of his personal stuff, that came to me with headaches and neck pain and back pain after a couple of years of having had a car wreck, and it wasn't healing, really severe pain. And when I checked her, she had deep grief and sadness in her lungs. And so I didn't tell her about it, but we did the technique to release it, and it started to clear. And she said, well,
Mhm.
what are you doing? So I told her there was sadness and grief in your lungs, and her body was protecting her from this. And when she told me the story of the people in her family that she had lost, really the worst of the worst, it made sense. But instead of trying to just like talk through it, there was a way to release it out of her lungs. And so her body was protecting her. And when she finished her sessions, no more headaches, no more neck pain, no more back pain. But she told me, I think the reason I had the car wreck was to find you and let this go. And so 6 months later, I emailed her to see, hey, do you need any more sessions? How are you doing? And she was still good. And she was a different person. And so her body was protected from a spiritual pain. So heart sadness and grief and despair, deep things that we may or may not know all the causes, it can be protecting us. And the body's really smart. It'll protect the spiritual pains and the mental emotional at a very high
Right.
cost. And it'll
Mhm.
protect things like hearts and lungs and livers at a high cost. So it knows what to do. And the key with this healing way that I use is to be able to find what is it protecting? What's going on here? And then there's a way to release it, including the mental, emotional, spiritual stuff. There's even a process I can talk to you about that we do every Thursday in that group that we're in, to quickly find the protection and then use a very simple process to clear it, to let it do its thing and be done. And when it's done, it's done. And physical things can be different right away. So my work, lots of different healers and people I've studied with, but the basic idea is, what's the body, why is the body doing this? It's protecting something, and finding that and then letting it do its thing to unwind itself, to let God do what God does. The body no longer needs the protection, and it gets on with it. It's kind of like a cut. If you get a cut and it heals, miracle. If it doesn't heal, it could be it's dirty. Well, let's clean it, and now it heals. Or it could be that there's a raging infection. Oh, we got to get rid of the infection, antibiotics or something, and now it heals. Or it could be that they're diabetic and their blood sugar is out of control. Let's get the diabetes under control, and now it heals. So instead of just like keeping on putting on stitches and saying a Band-Aid, and why is this not healing? It's like, come on, it heals in everybody else. It's a different reason for different people, but you got to find out, why is the thing not, why is it doing this? And that's the basic idea of my work.
That's amazing. So when someone wants to use to join you or whatever, tell me, how does it work? What's the process? For example, let's say I want to use your services and get the healing I need. Walk me through the process. How does it work?
So the basic process, the logistics of it all, is people usually get on a call with me and talk to me. They email me or contact me on Facebook or something, and I'll send them a couple of videos that just talk about this way of working on somebody. And if it makes sense to them, if they want to see what's going on with them, I'll get on a call and complimentary call and just let them know, hey, here's what I see. I think this is the way to clear this. Do you want to work together? And if they do, then my North Star is what's in their best interest. And sometimes it's like, you know what? This is a one session thing. And the first session, something like that, would be an hour and a half or more. We go into it and do a big healing. But a lot of people have this, and then they have this and this and this and this. And I'm like, the best thing for you would be to do a course of sessions, and let's clear every bit of this. And do you want to do that? So I'm open to whatever they want, as long as I'm feeling like it'll get them a result. So so basically they can talk to me, and then we can work together if it makes sense to them, and do what's best for them. Whether it's, a lot of people stay with me and then they keep staying with me because once they get clear of certain things, especially entrepreneurs, there's the next level of mountains, and then the next level of mountains. And so there's ways to keep using all the obstacles as a way to get healed from all sorts of old stuff. Like, I think one of the biggest spiritual journeys is to be an entrepreneur, or to have a family, because you bump into all your stuff. But yeah, if they want to, basically, if somebody resonates with this, it'd be a short call or an email and say, hey, do you want me to take a look? And then let's see what's best for you. And some people do a session or two, and a lot of people do a series.
So how long does it take someone to get some result from the moment they start until they get the result they want? Usually, of course, I know it depends on each person, but usually speaking, how long does it take someone to get some result or the result they want?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was trained in and I use consistently is something needs to change from when they come in to when they leave in that session. Mm-hmm. And so I like to test things that we can retest right away, like how does their neck move? How does their shoulders move? How's their back? How's their walking? Even if they're coming in to fix an impostor syndrome or an anxiety, I like to check physical things. And when we do, like here they are, when we do what we do, then we recheck those things, and they're different. And it's consistent. People are different. I don't think I've ever seen anybody not be different. They're all different. And so how fast it's like, it's an instantaneous thing. And especially in the first session, things will be different. And sometimes it's like, like when I worked on my sister and her two kids many years ago, they had headaches, neck pain, back pain, and it was at Christmas, and we were just working on them, and they were laughing, and it was all good. and they felt much better right after the session. Money came in a couple of weeks later. They both had the University of Texas paid for unexpectedly out of the blue, and it was a big concern
Nice.
before that. We weren't working on money, but it's, you solve these things, and all sorts of stuff changes later. But what's important for me is I want to see what changes right now, because if we did something there, I need to see a result. That's my criteria, and otherwise it's like, was it this that we did, or was it just time went by and life happened and they got healed on their own? So the result is immediate. And one of the, it can get kind of weird, crazy weird, because it can happen even on a call like this. Like, if we were to test your neck and range of motion, and people that are watching, they can be different right after this call, which is a very funny phenomenon. But we can talk about that version of
Wait,
stuff. But yeah, it should be immediate.
you mentioned that you were working with your sister and all of a sudden money showed up. Are you using some principles from the law of attraction or visualization or anything like that? Or
It's a bit simpler and more direct. So the idea is there's thoughts that pop up, and people think, oh, think and grow rich, change your thoughts, change your external world. And they think, well, you got to change your beliefs. And it's like, oh, there's all these programs because of the way I was raised and the stuff that happened when I was a kid and the younger stuff that happened. And so people are trying to change their programming and trying to change their thoughts and trying to change their beliefs. But there's an endless supply of thoughts and beliefs and all this talk and stuff. And it's like, God, this pattern shows up again. Well, of course it is. It's what happened to my dad. It's like, all this stuff. So there's a different thing that I do. And it's in every spiritual tradition, but it's so easy to miss because it's so simple. And the idea is that when something happens, whether you know it or you don't, you're a kid and you don't know what happened, some problem that your parents had, or some belief that got installed unknowingly, or something happens to yourself, some failure or some kind of thing or some kind of accident. What happens is we have a feeling. So it's kind of the idea like, man, that guy gives me a pain in the neck. It gives you a real pain in the neck. There's actual pain. Or, man, it's like I got kicked in the guts. Or it's like got a real feeling of got kicked. Or you know what? Yeah, she broke up with me. God, it just breaks my heart. It does. It hurts. It's physical. And so what it is this feeling is there. And we as humans don't know, organisms don't want to feel pain. And so what happens is we use a lot of energy to hold that pain down. Like that lady that had lost a bunch of people in her family, she used a lot of energy to hold it down. And then it showed up as neck pain, back pain, headaches, and all that kind of stuff. And so that energy is not available for healing. And that energy is not available for positive stuff in business and that sort of thing. And what happens when you're holding that feeling down so that you don't feel it is all these thoughts pop up. So now you have negative thoughts. And then these beliefs pop up, and this programming pops up, and it's this whole structure. And now your whole being is going out into the universe saying, here's what I'm resonating with, law of attraction kind of idea. And so the universe shows you more examples so that your beliefs and your thoughts and your programs get confirmed. And now you're trying to change your thoughts and your beliefs. What we do is we go right to this feeling. And when it's done being felt, it's done. And the stories I like to tell are the two ways my boys were born. The second boy was born great in a midwife place, and came out and was crying. And my wife was like, look, he's telling us the story. And you could just see him. He was saying, yeah, I was compressed, and then I came out, and there was these lights, and there's like pressure. And he was just talking and talking, just, of course, no words. He was like crying. And then he was done, and then he latched on, and then he was done. My first boy came out, and he wasn't breathing. And they're like, we were at home. And the midwife is like, get the phone. Like, I had 911 dialed up. And then he started breathing. And then he had this funny little cough. And they said, we got to transport to the hospital. And we're like, come on, can't we keep him for the night? I think he's safe. He's okay. Scariest night of my life. They came back the next morning and they said, we got to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, and they looked for a week and a half, and they put him on antibiotics, and they couldn't find anything, but he came out just fine. And that little thing stopped. But they put lots of IVs in him, and they were poking him and prodding him, and he's doing all these tests, and he never cried. And years later, I asked him, I said, hey man, why didn't you cry? He said, well, I went to where I was before and I was watching you guys. And I'm
Oh,
like, holy
wow.
shit. And so he never felt it. He took off and then he used a lot of energy. And to this day, he hates needles. He hates getting cut. He hates seeing blood. He hates hearing about people getting hurt. He hates hearing about hospital things. And we said, we can work on this, man. And he said, well, later. We'll work on it later. But we did work on it for his swimming because he was really scared going swimming. We would go to Vancouver a couple summers ago for him to take swimming lessons, and he hated it. And one day driving, he's like, I hate swimming. And I said, do you want to work on it? So we did this process of letting him feel this protection, this pain. And over the course of an hour driving to Vancouver, I said, how does it feel now when you think of swimming? And he said, feels okay. So we went swimming, he went swimming, and he came back that day and he's like, I love swimming. I love peace process, which is one of the things we call it.
Wow.
And so he went and felt this thing that he was protecting. And then he no longer had the thoughts, the beliefs, the programming. His world didn't show up like that. So, so the idea with law of attraction and that kind of thing is like, yeah, we have to change our thoughts and our beliefs, but it's almost impossible because they just keep coming and the world keeps showing us more versions of that because we're protecting this pain that we don't want to feel. And if we can just get direct, that's what we do on the Thursday calls and what I do with my work with everybody, where they have physical problems or imposter syndrome, anxiety, we go find what is it protecting and we let it do its thing. Kind of like my boy that just, he just cried and told us all about it. And we don't do it, it's not a talk therapy, but there's a way to let it run its course. And when it's done, it's done. And what happens is it creates a vacuum, kind of like the lungs. You know, all that stuff is gone. What rushes in naturally is the good. So good thoughts, good beliefs, good programming, and then synchronous things happen in life where it's like, holy cow, more sales than ever. That's weird. How did that happen? Well, we got rid of we let the feeling do its thing and be done. All those thoughts and beliefs went away. New thoughts and beliefs come in. The world starts showing you, oh, well, this is what we're going to show you now. So that's
amazing.
that's the version.
Wow, I think that's something that we can talk for hours because I'm beyond fascinated by that. I mean, I've been reading a lot on that later that we can talk to you later after. But tell me about, say, a case that you helped, someone that you helped that's quite share with us a case of a very remarkable transformation that you helped someone overcome something that was really holding them back to now being completely cured of. So of course you don't have to tell them about the names or anything, but
Yeah.
tell us about the something that was outstanding so far, that really stood out so far to you, that you're most proud of, that you saw the biggest change in someone.
Yeah. It's so interesting when you have a question like that, because people tell me sometimes, Ralph, you can't tell them that, it's too sensational. And it's like, but let me think of which one shows up. One shows up that's crazy, but I don't know if I want to share that one. Let me see. I mean, like, super cool. I mean, the lady that came in with the headaches and neck pains and then cleared the deep grief from losing a lot of her family, that was big. I would say, let me see. One that's, let's share one from an entrepreneur and one from, another woman, a different woman. Okay, so one person approached me because she really smart, got very big skill that can help a lot of people make a lot of money. And her coach told her, hey, this is imposter syndrome. You know, she wanted to play small and she wanted to serve a certain group of people that that couldn't afford a lot of her work, what she could really do. And so we worked together, and yeah, we worked together and cleared this thing. And if you heard her story as a little girl, what happened with her and her parents, you would have been like, well, no wonder she's got these fears and anxieties, and this doesn't feel like she's worth working with higher level people with more money. But so without telling details, we did the session and we cleared stuff. And she had I believe it was 7-fold increase in that monthly revenue. She had a certain level of revenue that was coming in, and it went up 7-fold in that month. And most of it came in the first week. And so then she contacted me and said, hey, man, I need more of this. I want to make sure this stays going. So we're working together to keep clearing the next level of stuff. But if you had heard her story, it was like, oh my goodness, well, yeah, look at what happened as a little girl. No wonder you don't want to like hang out with
Wow.
rich people or people that have a lot of influence. It's like, yeah, I understand why you want to hang out with the people you want to hang out with. So we cleared that, and then her business worked, and she was doing the same things in her business. She was always doing stuff that would work in business, but then people found her and they paid her full price, and it was like the best month ever. Another person saw me, and she's also an entrepreneur, but also had a full-time job and didn't like the job. I mean, when I heard about the job, I was like, oh, this is killing. This is not good. And but she also had a real hard time with digestion. So
Oh, wow.
really tough time eating, and could hardly eat anything, and had lots of elimination problems, and couldn't sleep very well, stayed awake and she would work all day during the week. And then on weekends, she pretty much slept all weekend to make up, to like try to get back in. And and so we worked on her with a bunch of stuff. We kept finding stuff that was in the way, some stuff that she was actually putting in her body that we had her quit putting in her body. And that started to help heal her gut. Um, and then we kept clearing the mental, emotional stuff that was in the way of all this, because her family also wasn't treating her very well. Kind of like the, the not the alpha wolf, but the other wolf that always gets beat upon, is that kind of relationships with her family. And so her health got better where she could eat and she could sleep and she had lots of energy. And then the funny thing is, it's kind of like a miracle. The lockdown happened, and then she didn't have to do her work in person. She could do it remote, and that made and if people are listening that think it's about them, it's kind of a I don't think it's about don't worry, I'm not divulging any information, but yeah. So, but what's interesting is as it happened, and as she healed all these things, physical stuff and mental, emotional stuff, one of her family members, one of her kids, who for adult kid, for the first time in many years, told her she loved her and that she was so glad she was doing her work. And we didn't work on her kid. We didn't really even consider much of her kid, except little bits, like how does this make you feel? But so she had physical healing. She got to do her work differently. She's actually has an online product that she's launching. But one thing that was unexpected was her daughter told her she loved her for the first time in many years.
Wow.
And she got to sleep, and she got more energy, and her gut works, and she can eat food. So
That's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah,
It's one of the best thing that, and I'm sure you've noticed that one of the best things, that the best feeling is when you actually help someone and you see in their eyes a gratitude of helping them get what they want or achieve what they want. Even a simple, a simple smile to make their day. That's the best feeling in the world. Uh,
yeah,
the theme of this podcast is leaders with a heart, which basically means that I'm interested mostly in bringing in people that are building great businesses, but also businesses that have a mission, a purpose, and a heart that also contributes and give back to others. So tell us more about, I would like to know about, are there any causes that you're passionate about that you're working on, and
yes,
share that
yes.
with us?
Well, thank you for letting me share that. Thank you,
Mm,
thank you. I hope this reaches a lot of people.
very welcome.
So there's a group called ICANDecide.org, ICAN decide.org. And it's the work of Del Bigtree. He was the producer of the daytime talk show, The Doctors, for many years. And
Okay.
then he couldn't, they wouldn't let him do a show because it was about a controversial topic. And the funding, the advertising for that show was the people that he was going to do a show about
Mm,
in the pharmaceutical industry. And so they wouldn't let him do it. So he brought his producers and some other people from CBS over to his own show. And it started for me in his world back in 2014, because I was wondering, well, Ben hasn't been vaccinated. He's a couple years old. I got to do my homework and see,
mhm.
make sure I don't do anything stupid, like which ones do we take? And I started to look into that with a lot of research. And for the past 6 years, I've devoted, my wife and I both, 2 hours each to looking at the research every single week without fail. And we've been looking at that. And when I first started looking at that, I realized, oh my goodness, there's not a single vaccine that's tested against a placebo.
Against what?
So usually they're not tested versus a placebo. So most drugs are like, here's the drug and here's saline, water, or here's the drug and here's a sugar pill. Let's see the difference over the years. And vaccines are not. They're tested, this vaccine versus the ingredients in this vaccine minus the little bacteria or virus, or this vaccine versus another vaccine. And they're not tested against a placebo.
Sure.
And the crazy thing is in 1986, there was a Vaccine Injury Compensation Act, and Reagan didn't want to sign it, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't agree with it in the Supreme Court because they gave liability-free status to the drug companies in regards to vaccines. So you couldn't sue a vaccine company. So instead they put a tax on vaccines and put it into a fund. And if you had a problem with the vaccine, death or injury that you thought it was from the vaccine, you could petition what's called vaccine court, and then the government would pay you out. And to date, there's been $4.3 billion paid out. And the biggest one is the flu vaccine, which just passed $1 billion paid out for death and injury. And so what's happening now is there's a lot of mandates for kids to get vaccines. And now there's talk about mandating everybody to get vaccines and having a vaccine card in order to buy your food or to get a passport, like in Argentina now. And so ICanDecide.org wants to make it so that people have the medical freedom, my body, my choice, my body, my children's body, my choice, and to decide, you know what, we're going to go the medical route and use all these medical interventions, or we're going to go a natural route, or we're going to do a combination, or use it when we need it and not use it when we don't want it. Basically, the cause I'm aligned with and the cause we donate to, and what I see as part of my thing is to donate a lot more to ICanDecide.org, because what they do is they go and they look at the research, and then you can go read the research yourself and listen to the scientists and the doctors who are examining this. And it gets to be really weird when you start to look down that road, because you think it can't be this bad. They're not evil, are they? But the thing is, I think there's a lot of good people that are doing what they think is the most important thing to protect kids and to protect people and protect society. But when we look at the peer-reviewed research, and that's what we do, we read research, and then we look and see who funded it and what was the design of the study and what was the results, and did the conclusions match what they said in the results, and did the news report about the study match what was found in the results. And as we did that for 2 hours a week, my wife and I each, since 2014, this has become our issue, our passion, our thing that we donate to is ICanDecide.org, because that group is dedicated to eradicating man-made diseases. And one of the big things is to just not put poison in our body. And if there was a woman who looked at the ingredients of the vaccines and wrote them all down and called poison control and said, hey, if I theoretically, just hypothetically gave my child this, and this, what would happen? And they're like, lady, do you know somebody who's done this? And she goes, I'm just saying hypothetically. And they said, well, we would have to call the authorities. That's child abuse, child endangerment. And she said, that's the ingredients in the vaccines? Formaldehyde, sodium benzoate, aborted fetal tissue, mercury, aluminum, all sorts of stuff that if you had a little cocktail of it and injected it into your own kid, it would be child abuse. And what happens is, I'll give you one more bit. When they were doing a lot of these studies, they tracked kids for a while, and they found a very significant rise in all the autoimmune conditions and gastrointestinal problems and neurological conditions. And so now, it's been about 10 years since they looked at this, I think, but 1986, 12% of the people had a chronic condition. Now it's 54%.
Wow.
So if somebody's over 30 years old, there's a 54% chance they're on some sort of, they have a certain condition, and they don't have to, if we can just get this information out. Because if you just don't stop hurting yourself with chemicals, you can heal. And just to give it one more bit, because people think, well, I've got to trust the health authorities and the CDC and FDA and all that. It's like, I get
Oh
it. They're
no.
scientists and all, but our own EPA just fought really hard with our own Department of Justice to make it so that Bayer, who now bought Roundup, that stuff, that glyphosate, that's been linked to cancer, they just fought. Our own EPA fought with our own Department of Justice to say that that Roundup can still be sold and there's no warning on the label, and
Wow.
that they'll pay out the people that have had cancer. It's like billions of dollars that they agreed to, but they won't be held accountable for any more of these things. We'll just have a fund for it. So when you say my passion is to just help people heal. And if we
Mm-hmm.
can just not let them, if we can just give them information so they can make up their own mind, my body, my choice,
Mm-hmm.
that that can save a lot of lives.
Sure.
And ICanDecide.org is our group that is dedicating themselves to that. And they got really smart people, and they're just sharing peer-reviewed medical research. And it's getting banned. It's banned on YouTube now, and all it is the
Oh yeah.
research. So you can read it yourself. So I don't know. Might want to cut that part out of your podcast if it's too. We
No,
don't want
it's
to get
okay.
you banned. But that's my thing. And I don't
Yeah.
usually say too much about it these days in big ways, because I'm doing my part, and I'm not here anymore. I feel to fight, but if it resonates with somebody, I just say just go look for yourself. Go look for yourself, and
Absolutely.
look at the research. And but yeah, that's our thing.
And that is so true. We need to not just take at face value what we're being told by whatever. We just need to do our own independent research and everything, whether it's for the news, whether it's for our own health, especially our health, because that's the most important thing in our life. As I said in the beginning, the most important asset we have is our health and our time, and we need to be completely responsible ourselves and not outsource that to some authority that
And
sure they're
it's
doing.
so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. And it's just, you don't know. Like, I was always the kind of person that followed the rules, got my car oil
Mm-hmm.
change on time, and I did everything I was told. And so, when I was a little kid, they told moms to smoke cigarettes because it would be win-win-win. They'd have a
Oh
lower
my
birth
God.
rate, they would be more relaxed, and an easier delivery. And then they said breast milk was not as good as medical formula, so let's give everybody formula. So I wasn't breastfed. And so and then it just goes on and on and on. Like in the 50s or 60s, I think it was the 50s, they had a couple of doctors from Harvard, and this is all New England Journal of Medicine stuff. This is like in JAMA. This is, you just got to like go find it. But back then they did a study to see what was causing heart disease, because Eisenhower had a heart attack, the president. So they came
Yeah.
up with a thing, and they said, well, it's the saturated fat from animals that's causing the heart problems, and the thing that we need to do is have a diet high in grains and carbohydrates, sugars, and um, and then later, last like 5 or 10 years, it's come out. It's been back in the JAMA and New England Journal of Medicine that, those doctors were literally paid off by the sugar industry
Of
to
course.
flip the data. And so it's like, well, that's weird. And you could think conspiracy theory and all, but this is in JAMA and in New England Journal of Medicine. So,
Yeah.
so have we used the medical system? Yes, and I'm so glad. Like when there's traumas, when my little boy had a problem first week of life, I'm glad they're there. But it's so good to go see what's true, and just kind of look at the
Hmm.
research yourself, and reach out to people that are looking, and just just go to your heart and see what feels right, and then go take a look. That's my.
I I completely agree with you. We're complete on the same page, brother. And here we can have an entire podcast just on that, but that's going to be for another day. And of course,
Yeah.
yeah, you mentioned something. I didn't want to cut you off. You mentioned something about Argentina. Can you? What was that about again?
Yeah, so in Argentina, and I'm pretty sure that's the country. I don't think it's another one down there, but I'm pretty sure it's Argentina. Their law is that they have some sort of real ID, and it's tied to their vaccine status. And
Oh,
so
really?
they
Wow.
have the number of vaccines they want for the people. And if you don't have a vaccine, you can't get a passport or a driver's license. So So that's in place. It's kind of like maybe it's a test run for the rest of the world, but they're already talking about
Wow.
a vaccine card in Slovakia right now. You need a vaccine card or card that lets you leave your house, that says that you got tested for the new virus that's out right now. So if you haven't been tested and you don't want to get tested, you don't get your little card and you don't get to leave your house. So these measures are happening right now, and so many people are in such fear, and they're willing to give up a lot of freedom but Argentina, yeah, you can't get a passport or driver's license unless you do the vaccines that the government says they want you to do.
That's scary.
It's really
Actually,
scary.
the reason why I asked you why Argentina caught my attention is because I'm planning on going to Argentina myself for my own project.
I
And
remember you when we first
I
met.
told you
Yeah.
that, yeah. And I was like, I have some good Argentinian friends.
Oh, ask
I
them.
will,
Ask them how it's
I will,
going.
I will definitely, I will. That because wow, that's beyond scary. I used to live in China for 4 years, and I've seen some crazy things down there. But so
I know. I want us to be able to move about the world, like as entrepreneurs and the big thought leaders in that world. They're used to moving around the world freely, and
that's how it was. It's been for millennia. So it just
I know.
the idea of passport is just something pretty recent. Maybe like what a few centuries, not even.
Yeah. So
Like
yeah.
I don't think at the time of Marco Polo, for example, I don't think he had a passport when he traveled around the world, or
I don't
say
think so.
Christopher
Yeah.
Columbus or
Yeah.
Vasco da Gama. These guys didn't have any passports.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm with you, man. Oh
No,
golly.
wow, that's amazing. No, we definitely that's an entirely different conversation outside of the topic of this
Yeah.
podcast. But hey, man, absolutely amazing. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're an amazing person, beautiful heart, and all that. So, if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact and connect with you?
I'd say this is a good one. I'll give you a couple. One is Ralph Havens, my name,
Yeah.
ralphhavens.com/true healing. That has all
Okay.
of our offerings. And then
Okay.
for the entrepreneurs, people want to ending anxiety and fear and imposter syndrome, ralphhavens.com/crush imposter syndrome. And
Wait, Ralph
they can find me
Evans.
at both of those spots.
Crush imposter syndrome. All in one word? All of that? Okay.
Yeah,
Imposter
oh yeah. So
syndrome.
it's ralphhavens.com/crush imposter syndrome. And the one with all of our offerings, ralphhavens.com/true healing.
Okay. Do you have a podcast?
I do. In fact, it's supposed to be today, but I was going to do it with Dr. Tom, one of my colleagues and friends, and he's sick. So I don't have it. It's
Mhm,
usually today, 10:15 Pacific time,
mhm.
and it's called Miracles, Magic, and Coffee.
Miracles, magic, and coffee. Okay,
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
on it's on YouTube. Yeah, it's on our YouTube.
And what's your YouTube channel? Same name, Miracles, Magic, and
No,
Coffee.
it's Beyond Limits with Ralph Havens.
Beyond Limits. Ah, beautiful name. I love the name. Okay, that's
Thank
your
you,
pod.
Demon. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's your podcast, and Beyond Limits. That's your YouTube channel. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, and do you have any parting tips to anyone who's currently having some issues and would like to get more clarity or more help, more healing?
Definitely reach out to me, and I can send you some ways to do that technique to clear the mental emotional stuff that's in the way. I can guide you on that, and we can talk more if you want. That would be that'd be the thing, and then to go to your heart and see where you're led, and reach out for help, because you and I both know how important coaching is. And if you've got a problem, if you've got something that's happened, if you can't figure something out, somebody has figured it out, and
Sure.
you can find them.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's a beautiful message for sure, because it's as I said earlier, there's a course for everything, and there what we need to do, we can what's the worst way to heal anything is just to reach out to experts, people that understand the topic, and just pick their brain. There's nothing, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people are extremely reachable. It's not like you're dealing with some some CEO or executive in a corporation where you have to go through so many hoops just to talk to them. No, these are
Yeah,
normal people, very approachable. Just reach out to them on Facebook, whatever, and they would be more than happy to help you. And Ralph is one of them.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And you are too, Payman. Thank you so much, man. I hope to do a lot
Ple-
more with you.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. So have a great one. We'll talk after off the record, but thank you for your time, my friend. Take care. All the
Thank you,
best. God
Payman.
bless.
Thank you.
Cheers.
God bless.
Cheers.